Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Okay, sorry, this will be a little long, but I want to ensure non-military people understand. If this isn't pro-revenge, let me know, and I will delete this post. I was stationed in Germany as my first duty station in the early 90s. Part of my contract was to go through parachute training school, making me airborne, and I got to wear a little patch on my uniform to indicate I have been through that training. Now, there has always been a mostly friendly rivalry between different groups like Airborne. Only two things fall from the sky: bird droppings and fools, air assault, a dope on a rope, and so on. We called anyone who wasn't airborne a leg. Now, being female, I couldn't be in a combat job, so I was exceptionally proud of being airborne. I was assigned to headquarters for a group in charge of the prison. I wasn't military police. I was a thief. I'm a supply specialist in that unit. Our unit shared a building with the command staff. Lots of generals and high-ranking enlisted. It was for the European theater. They were not part of my chain of command, but we interacted occasionally in the hallways or at the mess hall. In Germany, it's not like in the US, at least for the army. Instead of a military base where everyone was stationed, we had casernes. Basically a mini base with a few units and a barracks to house a single, lower enlisted troops. There were several different casernes in an area called something like George Washington Village. In the village would also be the PX, commissary, medical facility, and so on. There were also German-owned businesses. In addition to command staff for each unit, there was a command staff for the village. I hope all that makes sense. Okay, I volunteered as a big sister for big brothers/big sisters, as a mentor for younger kids. We always wore civilian clothing when at the club for the kids. So volunteers could be military, dependent, or retirees. On to what actually happened. One day I ran into the command sergeant major from the European Command Unit. This dude was old. If he had fought in World War II, I wouldn't be surprised. He was always giving me crap because I was airborne and he came in as infantry. Well, on this particular day he went beyond the normal banter and said, "What's a pretty young thing like you doing, jumping out of airplanes instead of being at home in the kitchen?" I was actually so shocked I didn't even respond. Later that day I was at the Boys and Girls Club. The kids were painting a big mural and the mentors were supervising behind them. I was talking with one of my buddies, another mentor, and told him what had happened earlier. He said that crap was unacceptable and I should report it. I said that I didn't want to cause problems and I just tried to avoid him as much as I could. The next day I'm down in a supply room being chairborne and I'm told to report to the commander's office. Not my company commander, the group commander, a full colonel. He's the highest ranking officer in the group. I'm scared, trying to figure out what I did wrong as I go up to his office. I report to him and he tells me to sit down. It's then I realize my buddy from the club is there and in uniform. He has stars, general, on his collar. He tells me to tell the colonel what the command sergeant major said. I do, and my colonel turns bright red and exclaims, "He said what?" Then the general and the colonel march me over to the commander of the European theater. This dude is a 4-star general. I am told to tell the 4-star what the command sergeant major said. So, I do. They say thank you very much and send me back to work. The sergeant major was transferred back to the States to Fort Campbell, home of the 101st Airborne. I expect his remaining time in the army was unpleasant. I was a tennis coach at my local club for 5 years, with a majority of this club while I was in high school. While this club was more of a social environment that encouraged children and adults to play for fun, rather than a serious tennis academy pumping out prospects, it had its characters. While I could write a whole heap about my time there is one incident that will always stick out as my favorite because of the outcome. A couple of years ago, my best mate, we will call him Martin, and I were having our usual hit on a Sunday afternoon. Martin's dad and his little sister were hitting on a court next to us as she was just starting tennis. On the other side of the club, we see a unique club member, the entitled woman, who's got a reputation for herself, and her partner as well, also got a bit of a reputation. They were hitting when we noticed a group of non-members show up keen for a hit. They go on the court next to those two, and the entitled woman and her partner abruptly kick them out with what looked to be some freak-off waving, finger-pointing, and other not-too-friendly gestures. Now, my boss told the coaches in a meeting a while before this that we're more than welcome to open the courts up for any non-members as a free trial. This is to make the club welcoming and to encourage people to come more often, which is something the entitled woman and her partner clearly weren't doing. It is also our job to look after court hires, so the entitled woman wasn't doing our job correctly either. While those two weren't aware of the free trial aspect, Martin and I saw the entire thing and were felt awful for how rude those two were. We stopped our hit to open the courts behind the pair so they could get a hit in. As gracious as the group were for what we did, the entitled woman was not. We walked back over to our court, played a couple of points, and the entitled woman marched over to our court and launched fireworks of cuss words at us that wouldn't be suitable to adults, let alone teenagers. Some things said were, "What the F were you idiots doing? You guys are disrespecting the integrity of the club. I'm ringing your boss to report you idiots. You boys won't be at this club again after I get a hold of the person in charge." While Martin and I were trying to be as respectful and professional without blowing up, I stated I'm doing what I've been told. As she kept launching, Martin's dad overheard everything and came to our defense. He stated, "Who are you to talk to teenagers like that? You should be ashamed of yourself." She follows it up with, "I can talk to whoever I want when they break club rules. I've been a member for 10 years. Martin's dad pointed out that it looked like the entitled woman and her partner were rude to the non-members. She stated that it's their duty to kick them out and they can handle it however they want. As we continued to explain multiple times that it was a free trial and how we weren't breaking any rules, she still wasn't having a bar of it and kept insulting and threatening to report us in the least nicest way imaginable. She asked for my boss number. Why would you do that to the person you were yelling at anyway? But I gave it anyway, knowing that I will be fine and that as soon as I mention what she and her partner did, it's them in trouble. She topped it off by saying she will be at the club committee meeting to complain about us and that your days here are numbered. As they disappeared, the group of non-members came over to apologize for what we had to put up with and told us what she said when they got on court. Lines of "frick off," "get out of here," and "you're not welcome here" were mentioned. I felt a bit of regret for not speaking up as much as I should have, but I knew I will be okay and that it won't be tolerated. As soon as I got back from my hit, I texted my boss and secretary, both of whom I was pretty tight with, to let them know exactly what happened. My boss replied back saying he will sort it out and appreciated how we handled it. The secretary texted back saying he's known about her and has dealt with multiple complaints about her behavior from other members. Fast forward to the club committee meeting and the entitled woman didn't even show up. Saw my boss later in the week and told me he's yet to hear back from her. He asked me about how she treated the group and was disgusted at what he heard. A couple of months later, I came in for coaching and the secretary told me my boss rang her to tell her that the pair of them were kicked out of the club for the actions on that day, and also for other various incidents. Good riddance. Backstory. So, in the 3rd, then 4th grade, there was a kid with the same name as me. He hated me since I had his name and because I had stolen it. So he started calling me Vomit Boy and saying I smelled like vomit. Well, the teacher joined him, and I will get moved to the back of the classroom at a desk alone by the teacher because I don't want your stink near me, and no one else does either. Made my life hell there for the year. He would steal stuff, ruin books, put rotten food in my locker and other stuff like that. The revenge. So next year I had had enough of his nonsense. I knew there was a girl in class he was infatuated with. I'm not saying liked, as I don't know if he did at that age, but he always tried to sit with her and do stuff with her, skipping the games at recess to try and talk with her. She never wanted to and asked him to stop several times. So I started writing notes from her to him, mostly saying to only talk through notes and stuff like that. So he started leaving notes where I said to in the notes. I left him. Well, I kept this up for a good 5 to 6 months, and he started bugging me less. A great bonus was he left her alone this whole time. I'm going to be leaving this school soon, so I decided to end it. I wrote a note saying, I never actually wanted to be friends. I only wrote these notes so you would leave me alone and stop being creepy. I hope you feel bad for how you treated the other kids. If you thought we could be friends when you keep making some of my friends cry, you're wrong. The aftermath. He saw the note and ran from the classroom crying. He ended up becoming very quiet, stopped bothering people as much, and would cry a lot. He started getting made fun of all the time, and his group of fellow bullies left him. It was glorious. He ended up getting bullied more than he bullied me after I left. The bully was also held back a grade before, so he was 11 in 4th grade. I feel it's very fitting after what he did to me. I still get happy thinking of this. Also, I don't think that you guys realize that people get bullied by teachers all the time. Like, that's not even uncommon, unfortunately. Around 6 months ago, I was going through a 3-month-long culinary school. The first 2 months were lots of PowerPoints and lectures. So class ended around 2, then we had the rest of the day ourselves. The last month of the course had us cook food serving line style, starting at 3 a.m. for breakfast, and lunch was a break around 1. After that, our class would go back in to clean up the unused equipment, and a dinner team would take over. Our class was pretty small, only 4 people including me. And on average, we made food for 250 people every meal, with help from 2 or 3 instructors. We would be dead tired every day after cleaning, so going out wasn't crossing our minds. So we knew this early on in the course. So we used our free time early on to explore the town. Our class consisted of myself, Boomer, he wasn't that old, we just teased him about the age gap between the others, Colette, the best one in the class grade-wise and experience-wise, and Goofball, love that guy to death, but he's today's offender for delicious compliance. After class one day, Boomer said he needed to get a new phone because the one he had previously was cracked. I thought why not, and thought would be in and out. That day was kind of tiring, but I'm a nice guy and I was the only one with a car. Goofball and Colette caught wind of our trip and decided we should all grab dinner somewhere in town after the phone trip. We get to the store and Boomer goes inside to wait on a new Samsung Galaxy A21, now with lemon-scented cup holders, and the rest of us are in the car scrolling through memes. I'm chatting about food stuff with Colette and Goofball is just kinda spacing out. I grab his attention and he just goes, "Ah heck." Confused, I ask, "What's up?" I knew I was supposed to go into town today for something. I also need a new phone. This one is acting slow. Dude, we've waited on Boomer for nearly 30 minutes for his phone to be turned on. And now you need a new one? You couldn't have gone in with him? I'm sorry, I'll try to make it quick. And I all are hungry. But I want to get this before we go into our last months. Goofball rushes in as soon as Boomer is walking out with his new phone. Boomer gets in the car and asks what's he doing. Colette tells him, apparently getting a phone now of all times. Boomer says, heavens to pity. He had a knack for saying old things like that. After a few minutes, Goofball calls me and tells me to just go get food now and pick him up after. I ask how long he's gonna be, and he says another 30 minutes if not longer, since he's switching providers. I am tired and just want to eat. So here is where the malicious delicious compliance comes in. Goofball says, "Just go get food and bring me some back. I'll pay you for my order." Fine, whatever. We are going to a Mexican food truck. What do you want? Can I get 3 burritos? Are you sure? You really want 3 burritos? I'm paying for mine anyways. It doesn't matter. Pick me up a bottled Coke as well. Me, who is a huge grin on my face. Sure, buddy. 3 burritos coming up. I hang up and just start giggling to myself. Clit and Boomer are confused and ask why I'm laughing. All I say is, "You'll see here in a bit." We drive 5 minutes down the road and get to the truck. The other 2 make their orders first, and then it's my turn. As the order leaves my lips, both of them know exactly why I was laughing, and they just facepalm themselves. I've been here before and know exactly how big these things are. Have you ever seen a tube of tennis balls before? Take that lens and then wrap both hands around your calves. That's how big they were. All 3 of them. Oh, I also made sure to get his Coke, so I could wash it all down. We get back to the shop to wait another 15 minutes until he finally comes out. The rest of us are eating already in the car, and Goofball asks for his food. We all smile, and each of us hands him a burrito. His eyes widen and he has a face of Shaquille O'Neal on Hot Ones. I tell him, "This is what you ordered, right?" "Yeah, I just didn't think they would be so huge. I'll just give you your drink now. Don't want you to choke." You know what? Screw it. I'm eating all of them before we get back. What follows was what can only be described as a burrito massacre. Sour cream and rice being demolished by the second. Tortillas being ripped to shreds as Goofball went through each individual burrito. Unfortunately, after only 20 minutes, he wasn't able to down the last one. He went through 2.5 of them, to be fair. He may have waged the battle, but I still won the war. And here is the aftermath of the burrito carnage. The burritos eventually caught up to him later that night. We had to get up at 5 the next morning, so we decided to go to bed around 9:30. However, Goofball ended up finally laying down at 11 o'clock at night due to the burritos taking the revenge from beyond the grave. If we are talking Fallout, then the bathroom can only be described as nuclear, as the Mexican radiation was still present the next day. I think he was just too tired to use aerosol due to sitting on the toilet every 20 minutes. Luckily, I didn't have to expose Boomer to that, or it might have given him crow's feet.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.